Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Your favorite podcast, it's Critical Blast.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That SIlverline show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
And I'm Scott Wakefield, host of SIlverline's Wednesday Wham, where we talk about comic books and all kinds of great storytelling, sometimes with incredible guests. And we want you to join us Wednesday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you there.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Silverline's Wednesday Night Wham! Hosted by Scott Wakefield!
Hello, everybody. Good evening. It is Wednesday, if you didn't catch that, and that means Wednesday Wham. And we are the Wednesday Wham crew. This is Silverline, and you are right where you should be, and that's with us. We're going to talk comic books. We're going to talk pop culture. We're going to talk some other stuff. I want to introduce the crew we have. Tonight we have. I'm gonna start right with our special guest, our new guest.
Bedwell.
Hey, say hello. Have you been on any of our shows yet?
Hello, I sure have. Just been filling in here and there, and I'm usually on Sunday, Silverline Sunday. I am Quentin Bedwell. I'm currently working on the third book of Trumps.
Doing what?
Oh, sorry. I'm doing the penciling and the inking on that one.
Fantastic. And for people out there who we throw these words around, I don't know if you've been watching or you know what we're talking about, but penciling and inking. Penciling is drawing the comic book, and then inking. And that are you doing it traditionally, Quentin, with pencil or digitally?
Digitally.
Okay. Yep. And then digitally inking over it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the case? Yes. So that's just adding the next set of lines to the comic art. So hopefully we'll be able to see some of that soon, and that's one of the treats people get being on our show is getting when you watch and join us. I'm gonna go up the line. I got Brent, and then I'll go around Tim, and C. Michael, and then Haley. So Brent, say hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brent Larson. I'm the creator and writer on the Silverline book Kalis, and also the upcoming Silverline book Cape Town. And I am not a penciler or an inker. I'm a writer. We use these kind of things, and take a screenshot if you need it. It is actually very useful for inputting certain elements in a comic book. But anyway, I'm here in Orlando, Florida. And you can find me at brenttlarson.com or brent.vector on Instagram. And I'm also on Facepalm and all of that. So
You're everywhere. Hey, Quentin, where are you located?
You can find me on Facebook under Quentin Bedwell, Instagram, Kenobi, also on Discord, Kenobi, QENOBIE. Deviant, QJB, and that's pretty much it. I also have a board game on GameCrafter for those who are board gamers. So yeah.
What is that? What is that called?
It's a Relic Quest. It is a kind of an RPG type game, but it's not as involved as most of the ones that you're probably used to. But it's kind of an open beta right now, so. My main thing right now, though, is is doing the Trumps, so I'm really enjoying that.
Excellent. And where are you geographically?
I am in San Angelo, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Great
Right.
state of Texas. Yep. I am from Mississippi, actually pretty close to C. Michael. Yeah. Where are you located, C. Michael? I think over close to Kenwood and all that.
Kenwood's about maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm in Central, so which is like 5 minutes outside of Baton Rouge. So.
Yeah, I'm from Columbia and Hattiesburg area originally, so yeah.
And in case y'all don't know, Kentwood is where Britney Spears is from. They have a banner and everything.
I knew that. Of
Yeah,
course.
she put it on the map.
I knew a couple Kentwood people. Trust me, she's not anything different. Promise you.
Do you know Britney Spears?
No, I don't know Britney. I know some people that know the family. So.
I know of her. Does that count for anything?
I think I've heard of her.
Heard the name.
Mm.
I don't remember who I said next. I just moved my screen and everybody got shuffled. Tim, yeah.
Okay.
Tim?
Sure. Tim TK, associate editor at Silverline. I help with the blog, and we're currently figuring out we're doing some scheduling changes on that, so that's why it's been dead for 2 weeks. We're figuring that out. And I am currently the producer/seducer of the Wednesday Night Show, and the writer/creator of Wolf Hunter, which is a World War II espionage action comic coming out soon. And you can find me on Twitch at AgroBacon. And all the social medias at TimTK Writer. And you can find me physically around Salem, Oregon area, where we don't have any pop stars, but we do have Ursula Le Guin came from here. So.
Oh,
Yeah. Does she have a banner though?
Right.
We did have like a thing in the public library for a while.
Well,
Excellent. All right, I'm gonna go over to Haley and have her say hello.
Hello, I'm Haley Martin, and I'm doing the art for an upcoming Silverline title called Bear. I also do my own webcomic called Heroic Shenanigans, and yep, that's what I do. I'm also in Florida, Daytona Beach area.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I still don't. I always click off the wrong things. Are we seeing anybody's artwork right now?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we should hopefully see that. That'll be cool. And then C, we haven't seen you in a long time. C is for we'll see you on all your shows.
Say Michael Lanning. I'm a penciler for Silverline Comics, Project The Rejects, and other projects that are in the works. Also, I was co-anchor at Geek Speak that we had this past Monday, and our guest was so phenomenal. We just can't top that. We said that's it. We're done. We can't do it anymore.
Shut it down.
And so we're rebranding that. I will be showing up on Mondays. Just keep an eye out. If you want to keep an eye out, you can check me out on FriendFace, Twitter, and sometimes Instagram. So, and of course, I'm from the sassy South, Louisiana.
Yes. And that's everybody, right? And then me. My name is Scott Wakefield, yes. And I am up in the beautiful and sunny Western New York. And
York
I'm
City.
the author. What's that? What?
New York City.
No, you stop it. What?
He does that perfect.
Those are fighting words. You say that Western New York near Buffalo by Rochester. Yes. And I am the co-writer of a current, soon to be in people's hands title, Silverline title, the book Steam Patriots, and that is presently being kickstarted right now, along with the award-winning Divinity from Barb Kaelberg and R.A. Jones, an amazing team over there. Made a great book. We are funded, which is awesome. We hit our goal pretty early. Which was amazing and very exciting. So now we are working on our stretch goals. If you're not familiar with Kickstarter, Kickstarter is all or nothing. And so if you don't meet your goal, it doesn't get funded, nobody pays anything, and nothing happens. But if you meet your goal, you always want to make some more money, right? So we offer up extra goodies for every milestone. So we've set $500 milestones, and now we're pushing toward our third. The first extra was a bookmark, a two-sided bookmark with Divinity art on one side, and then a little Steam Patriots kind of Easter egg art on the other side that's about Steam mechanicians. And then after that, we what's the next one? Trading cards, right? Yes, trading cards with cool little cards that we're going to make, get printed at Kablam, I believe, and just looks like a cool action card with some art and then some information on the back. And then we are, and I'm bringing up on my phone, forgive me just 1 second, we are, we are $77, was that right? Yes, $77 away from our third goal, which is a really cool Steam Patriots patch that is the image of a fictional battalion that's going to be in Steam Patriots. And that was designed by my buddy and editor and colorer Dan Hosick. We made that up for the story. So looks like we're going to get there. That'll be awesome. So everyone will get that patch. And everybody that backs, if you just back digitally or if you do the pledge with no reward, you don't get those. But if you want up to a physical copy, you can get those things. And I want to say before I forget, because I'm very forgetful, we do have an add-on that's been there for a while, and we talked about it right at the beginning. People can get drawn into Steam Patriots. We've got 5 slots to have that happen, and I am going to say tonight, if somebody's watching and does the first person to do that, I'm going to give them lines. I'm going to give them dialogue. They will have a speech balloon with words in it coming out of their mouth, drawn by our artist. And I was even going to let them correspond with me on Zoom, and we can talk about how they want to look and what they want to do in the comics. So the first person who does that tonight, if we get somebody, that would be totally awesome. If you want to be drawn in, go pledge, or you can manage your pledge and add that as an add-on. So that's out there. And thank you everybody that supported it so far. We've got 126 backers. So please, we're down to the last 3 days. Share it out there. Share it. Send emails. Tell all your friends and all your enemies to back that project so we can get Divinity out to and Steam Patriots out to as many people as possible. I think I've spoken plenty about that right now. Also, to all the people that have been supporting our creatives, myself included, Barb, I know Roland's been on a couple shows. If I miss anybody, I'm sorry. I've got a list here of where we've made appearances, and you can go find all these people online and watch the shows. First of all, Steve was talking about Geek Speak there. He did a great job interviewing me on Monday. It was a lot of fun. I had a last-minute opportunity to go camping, but I still had cell connectivity, so it was great. I got to use my phone, and he did a great interview. So Geek Speak, Barb and Roland and I and Rory have been on Drinking with OCD. Barb's been on Critical Blast and Sunday Funnies. I plan to be on Sunday Funnies, trying to get on Critical Blast, but it's been a scheduling problem for me to get on before the Kickstarter ends, but that's okay. Also, thanks to the Sci-Fi Diner podcast. That's an audio podcast, and they are a group of great people that have a in-depth knowledge. They love sci-fi stuff, and they talk about it. And so they interviewed me and Rory, and then Founder of the Day. He does a daily post about a historical figure from the Revolution era, and he's got a great Instagram presence and YouTube presence with his posts that are information, and then his videos. So he interviewed us. You can find that as well. I think that's everybody. So go share the love. Go send them some love and support they have going on. Yes.
But you also got to remember, too, you weren't the only one we interviewed. We also interviewed Barb Kalberg, too, on Geek Speak. So y'all can find that there with Meredith Loughran. So
yeah, and I feel kind of always feel out of my element when I'm following. I like that Barb is the act to follow, because Barb's been in the industry for quite a while, and she's got quite the resume, and she has lots of awesome stuff and awesome work to talk about. Whereas I have Steam Patriots, which no one has even really. I mean, maybe a dozen people have seen. So, so go watch.
I'll be talking about it.
Yeah, we'll see. Barb does a great job. She's got some great stories, and she knows she can talk the talk. about the industry. So yeah, go look up all those interviews that happened. They're fun, and we have a good time. And some of them are kind of silly. Surprise. Okay. Hey, tonight we are talking about. We've got a little bit of a mix. Because this weekend is Memorial Day, and we were going to talk a little bit about military and fallen heroes represented in comic books. We won't stay on that topic super long. We just wanted to take note of it and take note of military as it's shown. I mean, good or bad, cheesy, but realistic. We can talk about that. And then we're going to move into how we would like to see our titles or other Silverline titles, or in general, how we'd like to see comic books represented in film, and the good, the bad that comes from that. The ideal, what if money were no limit, how we would love to see our stories represented, or what we fear how they would actually be sometimes when money is a limit and they have to chop out your hero and all the action and change the story completely. Who was the author of World War Z? I read a quote. He said, the only similarity between my book, there's 3 similarities between my book and the movie. The words world, the word world, the word war, and the letter Z. so a lot of times when they're turned into live action, it doesn't go so well. So thoughts on depicting the military or stories with the military in comic book form. Is that a element that appeals to you guys, or is it overplayed? Is it good, bad? What do you think?
I like it if it depending on the character arc, how they play into it, or if it's just over the top, super camp like G.I. Joe. Which, if there ever was like a tier 0 operator, that would whatever's a tier 1 and beyond and above that.
G.I. Joe, where no one ever gets hit by those laser guns that they
exactly.
shoot.
Yes, yeah, yeah, it's insane. But when you get into where it does play into a character story, like, I mean, even Logan, aka James Howlett, Wolverine, where they'll go back and reference his time with, I believe he was Army after World War II, and then ended up going into the Special Forces Community, SOG, Special Operations Group, and that time ended up getting some really bad representation in the first Deadpool movie. Or whatever it's called. No, was that a Wolverine movie or is that a Deadpool movie? It was a Wolverine movie with Deadpool. Yeah.
That was a Wolverine with Deadpool. Yeah.
Oh god. But when they play into the idea of separating personality, because that's something that anyone who's been in a combat role deals with when they leave, is separating your personality from your combat training, because you're taught essentially to, when bullets start flying, it's violence, silence, violence. Like, you don't, just no time for nothing else. And so when you get back, you're like, oh, there's nothing to be violent about. What do I do?
Right.
And so you saw it with Wolverine in some stories where, he's taking care of kids now. What's that like? And of course, it gets played into a bunch of other tropes. But that's kind of the most thought of example I could think of that you could do a lot thinking about with it. Or it's very easy to demonstrate that character growth.
Yeah. I was going to say too. It's without diminishing it. It's a subject that I don't want to sound like it's easy, but it's a great, it's a great character or subject to grab, because the reader or viewer, the consumer, can readily know what's going on. You don't have to say, you don't have to describe what is the army, what is the or you don't have to describe that. And then it gives you all the elements you need for drama, like you said,
Yeah.
character development, and the extremes of it. You know,
Yeah,
if we're talking about.
Oh, I guess also an example of that would be the Punisher, and the fact that like you have Logan, where what happens if you kind of rehab it, and then the Punisher is what happens if you can't rehab.
Right. Right.
And I mean, I feel like also another reason why those things resonate so is because of how, like Scott was saying, it's so readily graspable. Because it's an issue that's so prevalent in, as now that we come to understand that it's not just shell shock, there's an actual condition called PTSD, and we're actually starting to see that and treat it. But it's very prevalent because we know there's a lot of people who have served in this country, so everyone probably knows someone.
Right. Brent, you look as you were going to say something. Yes.
Yeah. I have a pretty sizable military presence in Kalis because my hero Scott Anders actually joined the Marines when Pearl Harbor was attacked, and that kind of set him on his whole course. What's interesting, at least to me, hopefully other people thought so too, but I did a lot of research on the Marines and read several books and knew that was kind of the way it had to be. He couldn't just. I don't want to offend anyone. My dad was in the Army. Okay, I grew up in a military family, but the Marines are different from the Army. The Marines very much have an esprit de, it's called an esprit de corps, but also really a sense of identity that's wrapped up in being a Marine. So that really comes into play when you want to tell a story about Marines, especially if you're going to do it in a comic book, because they can see what you're talking about, which means they can see where you got it wrong. And, I remember watching medical shows, and my sister was a nurse and was saying, oh, that really, it sure bugs me when they get the medicine wrong. Okay, this and that. Marines are like twice as bad. If they see something that's messed up, they could turn their backs on you because, frankly, you are kind of dishonoring them by misrepresenting them, even if it's not that big of a deal. It was funny when I was gearing up for the first issue of Kalis, I had Lewis do some sketches of especially Major Castillo, I think her name is. I only write the book, so I think that's her name. But anyway, she's in the Marines. And I had him draw up some sketches and showed it to a Marine friend of mine who is he's really cool, but he was really instrumental in the second Iraq incursion and this and that. But anyway, he came back and said, "You can't run with this. Look at everything that's wrong with her. Her hair isn't bound up really tight. Her shirt is what are those patches doing there? There's a patch on her shoulder. There's not supposed to be a patch there." And if it was the Army, I don't know how hard I would have tried. I probably would have tried pretty hard. But I've been around guys who are in the Army. They don't care as much. They're just like, okay, they're in the Army. That's why G.I. Joe, I read G.I. Joe all the time. When I was a kid, half the time they're not even wearing quasi-military outfits. They're wearing like football jerseys and
the snakeless
and stuff, and it's like, how can they be in the military? And the answer is because it's in the name. Okay, so just take it and be happy.
Snake has the Radiation bodysuit.
Yeah, exactly. Now their little weapons were cool because those were pretty close. And then you remember when you bought the action figure, they had the cards on the back that was like, oh, Snake Eyes is proficient in all NATO and Warsaw small packed arms, and wow, that sounds so cool. But that's just it. It sounds cool. But when you're talking the Marines, they want everything to be right. It's not just a lot of times when I'll do research, I'll pick out stuff to make my ignorance sound at least cool. My cool sounding ignorance, that doesn't work for the Marines. It has to be right, or you're screwing them over and it's not cool. So I had to be pretty careful about that. There's a scene in the first issue where, what was it? A couple of Marines were wearing hats indoors, and this is absolutely a no-no for the Marines unless you are carrying a weapon. and are part of like a security detail.
Yep.
And thankfully, these guys just happened to be. So it was nice. But I mean, that kind of stuff there's scary amount of detail there. So that's how it goes.
One of my maritime this is very nitpicky, but in the maritime service, if you are told to do something, you are given a command, you say not yes. Yes is the answer to a question. You say I or I. I means AYE, meaning I have heard and I will comply.
Mm-hmm.
So, like on Star Trek, Bing, check that off. On Star Trek, they say yes. There is that episode where who says aye to Commander Riker? One eye will do.
Oh, it's one of the rookies.
Yeah.
One eye is sufficient. Yes.
One eye is sufficient.
Yep.
But that's just one of my that's like the nitpickiest thing I know. But yes is not the response to a command in the maritime service. But so there you go. If anybody's story ends up you're on a ship, yes is the difference between yes and I.
What's like if you're in the British Armed Services, like the character in Wolf Hunter is Captain Willard. It's everything is always Roger or Wilco, depending on if you're mechanized or infantry.
Yes, and in basic, we were not. If you do not say repeat, you say because that means fire. Boom, 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 fire again. You say again. So those things like this. That, I mean, if you really want to get nitpicky,
If you say what, you're doing push-ups.
yeah, there's a lot that's beaten into you. But yeah, Brent, you're right. And when you get down, because the Marines are so small, you're right. It's like there's so much fervor and energy about it in a good way.
Yep.
You're right. And you've got to, and you don't want to lose people. You don't want to look lazy, and you don't want to do them a disservice either. It's I think it's important when you're going to be talking about or writing about a group of people that have so much dedication. You don't want to be sloppy about it. And I mean, there are other professions, but if we were writing about gardeners or something, and there are dedicated gardeners, but I don't think there's as much focus and energy.
You just haven't come across the right gardener yet. That's why.
I know.
This is a backhoe. You will use the full name.
That's not a shovel.
You want to get it right. But yeah, I've in my research with the American Revolution too, trying to get events right and people right and all. But it's so crazy because like at the beginning, they were handing out titles like, oh, you read a book, you're a general, oh, you're gonna be a captain, and then oh, your militia is now being part of this militia or this. Now you're regulars, and so you never know. And they had no uniforms, and they had. So I don't know. Sometimes, like when I was trying to look up to make the battalion flag at the time. So right now, if you want to look what a company or a battalion or any of those, there are numbers, and this person is in charge of this, a brigade, and this and I can't keep it straight because I wasn't
teamwork and logistics.
Right. So, but to look it up then, how many people were in a battalion? Because Congress allowed this state to have a battalion, and then they changed it in 1779 that this, and so I just picked it. It sounded good. It was small. Yeah. So my first Continental Boiler Battalion. Someone's probably gonna be like, actually, in 1777. So I have no idea.
Actually, in 1777, there wasn't steam-powered horses either. Yeah. So take that.
Well, that's also the funny thing if you're writing historical fiction, where if you're doing something so extravagant, where someone comes at you, your response is just, "This man is riding a steam-powered horse."
There are power forces. Yes.
I
Ben
believe
Franklin is making.
if you're setting out to write something like that, I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't do at least some research on what you're talking about, what you're writing about. If you're coming into a property, and it's somebody else's stuff, I mean, the least you could do is research what you're doing. But there is a point, that it kind of gets nonsensical because people are still gonna, pick it apart. So I mean,
Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Well,
with the amount of random things. I mean, nice thing about Circle Revolutions, anything like pre-modernity, Circle Wars, I guess, is documentation was not the best. When I get into World War II, like it was, yeah. I mean, you still have like historical records, but it's a lot of journals. It's not like where I'm writing World War II, where everyone filed reports all the way up and down the chain of command. So matching building reports. In a upcoming thing for Wolf Hunter that is not in the first volume, I have to look up what happened to the BBC broadcast building. At what point was it bombed? What sides were out? Like whose offices moved where? But then there are also moments where like the villain is quoting Richard V at the protagonist on a train car. I mean, you're getting what you're getting. Other than that, we're in Bond territory.
which is actually a good point, because what you really need to consider besides the research is it going to make your story better? Because I've seen pieces that they almost wanted to be so correct with their detail. The story got lost in minutia, and I'm always afraid I'm going to offend somebody, but have you guys ever seen the movie Gods and Generals? It's a Civil War movie that's like 4 hours long. I saw it for free because of the work that I do, and I felt like I overpaid because it was so long and the drama was utterly overwhelmed by all these minute details. So at the end of the day, yes, you need to do some due diligence to make sure that the story you're telling is reflecting, a modicum of the reality that you're trying to portray. But at the end of the day, I feel like the story still has to take precedence, or else you've got something that no one will really be interested in reading, and nobody wants that.
Well, and that film, what you're referring to is, again, they didn't find that balance between trying to make their audience that are history buffs happy and telling the story. And you really have to be aware of that balance, and you have to get it. And I don't, sometimes it's really hard to do, but I think in any event, you need to go for story because you want it to be entertaining, and not just worry about the hate you're going to get for not having, your years right, So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was
right. And there's the cheat.
Yeah. To speak well of a Silverline title, reading Kalis in the moment in issue 2 where I believe it's issue 2 where during the interrogation he gets broached by the Office of Special Services to come on and become part of the CIA. I mean, that's not exactly how recruitment works for like joining a civilian agency out of service, having some experience as a contractor. But having a moment where you have the guy going through like 15 forms of paperwork, being like, okay, we need to sign here, here, and here. I'm going to file this. It goes to this clerk. They send it back. That's not good storytelling. It's much better to have a secret character talk to this guy in the back alley of a dungeon.
Right. So what you do is you have a panel where a guy's going, "Oh man, now I gotta file this crap. It's gonna take me all day."
Yep.
And you're done. So.
Yep.
Actually, I that a little bit myself because I have a plot point where the hero Scott Anders is a colonel, identifies himself on a Marine base as Colonel Scott Anders. And then we find out he's in the CIA. And then I find out that you can't serve in the military and be in the CIA. So my fix was for him to say, "Hey, I'm in the military and in the CIA. How does that even work?" And that's pretty much where I left it.
That reminds me of that movie. You ever see Thank You for Smoking?
No,
And
Yes.
he's talking to the Hollywood producer, and the guy's like, "What? How about cigarettes in space? Oh, we'll just say something like, thank God we created the smoking detector thingy or whatever. Easy fix.
Yeah.
Easy fix."
Yeah. Yeah, you're. I'm sorry. I know I always throw in my Star Trek references. I think we talked about this too. How, Chief O'Brien, Riker calls him Lieutenant O'Brien at one time, and at some time he's got a rank insignia on, and they were all over the place with their. It would have taken 10 minutes for them to figure that out, but and nitpickers like me, it's been like what 30 years, and I'm still talking about it. So, I want to say Barb's title as well, Divinity.
Yes.
One of the heroes. So the hero is an 11-year-old girl, and she has special powers. And of course, bad people want to take advantage of those powers. But her parents die, and her half brother has to leave the Marine Corps to take care of his sister. And there's a huge age disparity. So Barb did a great job of his character being, of course, very reluctant, and so being pulled from his life as a Marine. Now he's essentially a dad, or just the big brother to this girl, and he has to struggle with leaving that life and then being kind of thrown into this new life, unwittingly, and she did a good job of that. And so he's going to be there's some in both. I don't want to give teasers away for 2, but yes, there's action in 1 and action in 2. A lot of good, amazing art and good storytelling. So he's a great character. He's got a great skill set, and Barb's a military mom, so I'm sure she did all of her research, and it shows how. In his character, there's not a lot of Marine Corps stuff, but in her the older brother, and I'm blanking on his name right now. The older brother in the story, she does his character well. They've written him really well as a Marine who now is kind of not happy with his situation in life. So she did a good job with that. Really good job.
Cool.
Well, it's RA. Does RA have any military experience? Do we know?
I don't know if RA does, but
I don't.
I know Barbara's pulling on her son, who is a Marine.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Barb's done a great job making it a believable story, and even in her choice of art, it's very classic comic book, very clean lines. It's not a lot of clutter. I like it because some of the art's real simple. It's comic book art, and then when there needs to be a more of an expression, or there's a lot of great facial expressions. There's a lot of story that's told with their faces. I've noticed at least for me, and there's a little more detail. It's like it slows down for just a second with the movement of the art, and her story is you jump right in, you know what's going on, you get a sense for the characters, and it rolls through number 1, and you get a cliffhanger at the end, which is great. You don't want to end without a cliffhanger, and it's a fantastic story. And number 2, I can vouch for, keeps going really well. You get to learn some more about the characters. Again, it's a nice, clean, enjoyable story with great, very character driven. I like that. I like that with any story where you're gonna feel for and commiserate with the characters, and they're gonna draw you in. So she's done a really good job. She and RA. So they've done a fantastic job. I recommend people grab it and read it. Okay, well, do we want to? We're almost at our halfway. But I want to give Haley and Brent the chance to talk about. We wanted to talk about movie adaptations, and you can talk in general terms about how movies that have been adapted into, comics that have been adapted into movies, how they've done a great job, or they've done a bad job, or what Silverline titles do you think, and I'm gonna say Kalis, I think would be a great movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And we don't have to movie. It can be mini series. It can be long format, Netflix, Hulu, whatever. What do you think? Do we have? I'm sorry. I'll let you talk if you want to talk about it in general terms, or talk about Silverline titles that might make good movies.
You know, I actually thought if anyone ever asked for my opinion, I would say Kalis would probably be a better series. And I only say that with the benefit of knowing how it ends
Oh yeah,
and the arcs it comes across, and which makes me excited to tell the story whenever I can actually, roll it all out, which it might be another year or two, but it's pretty twisty and turn. There's a lot of turning. There's a lot of different locations. I just finished the first issue of this second arc, and it's entirely in Argentina, which coincidentally both my artists are from Argentina. I don't know if that's coincidence or not, but anyway, there's some that happens in another world, and I don't know. I'd love if I had a lot of money, or if someone else had a lot of money and said they wanted to do it, I would recommend it as a series. So, yeah.
And do you think it would adapt well? I think comic books seem to adapt pretty well because it is visual. So there's the trouble with taking just a straight book to film is you can't turn exposition or backstory easily into a visual medium from prose. That's why so many books are always they change so much because they've got to move the story in another way. Comic books are a little different in that they're visual. So, do you think Kalis would be a good? I don't want to say shot for shot, but close to the comic book.
I would say probably not. I can bring the benefit of my, I'm a screenwriter. Not well known. I probably never will be, and that's just fine with me. But frankly, I don't believe in shot for shot anything when you're adapting one thing to another. And here's my example, and I wonder if people will agree with me or not. Do you guys remember the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck?
Oh yeah.
And they had a scene. I know. Some of you have tried to suppress it. And I ask you to remember just for a minute or two, okay?
Oh, Brett, Brett, no.
Stick with me. I promise you it'll be worth it. Okay, so remember when Bullseye is fighting Elektra? It felt like there were scenes there that were lifted directly from the Frank Miller run. And I remember watching it and going, this is so boring. Because I was like, I've read the comic. You can't top the comic. Why would you want to do a shot for shot? I mean, it's like putting in real. It's almost like a video game adaptation when you know going into it the game is too fun to be topped by turning it into a movie.
Right.
So that's why whenever someone tells me your comic should be a movie, because it's already practically there by virtue of being visual, I would guard against that for one, because the best movies are their own thing. You don't look at it and say, it's great because it's an adaptation of a comic. You say it's great because it's a great movie. And I love movies for that reason. I love the Marvel Universe movies because they take the best parts of the comics and they strip out all the rest. That's why The Winter Soldier is such a tight movie. But the story of Bucky took place over years of storytelling. Brubaker went crazy with him.
Yeah.
Not in the Winter Soldier. You get 2 hours, and they're very tightly bound together, and that's why the movie's so great. So,
all right.
But that's what I think. I'm really curious what other people think.
I enjoy I honestly, I don't know if I put a ton of thought into what I like, because everything you just said I agree with. But every once in a while, I don't know, maybe I like those little nods to the source material. Maybe it needn't be pervasive in the whole thing, but I like it. I don't know. Maybe it tickles me somehow to know that I've seen that, I know it, and they did it here, and I don't know. There's something about it. I can't quite explain it. So, but I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
It depends on the shot.
Yeah.
Honestly, go ahead.
I was say, yeah, definitely. If it's just the moment of reward. Like it's the creative team behind that movie, letting you know, like we're validating the amount of hours you put in learning this weird trivia about this thing.
Yeah.
So it's that nice validation. But I do, like Brent was saying, the best movies are our own thing. So I like adaptations if they're not strictly an adaptation. I mean, they made Zemo a character who wasn't just a meme, whereas in the comics he's just kind of a joke at some points.
He's like Red Skull Light.
Yeah, exactly. I liked the Lord of the Rings movies because they don't feel one for one with the books, but they're still telling the same epic. I mean, could you imagine Tom Bombadil on screen?
Yeah, and they still paid homage to Tom.
Yeah,
like, lost its way right then.
That'd be a very weird translation, but or they hint at it, they nod at it, but they don't actually. You know, you don't have the jolly giant singing while he's leading the hobbits. It's a safe harbor. Yeah. And I'll say that's what I'm hoping happens with the new Dune movie, because we had the previous Dune movie where, you know, it was that moment where, like, they took moments that do not translate, and they're like, hey, we're going to make it translate, and you were sitting there watching, and you're like, why am I looking at a brain in a jar yelling at people on a ship doing math? But if they take parts of it and translate it in a way that actually makes sense, which hopefully they do, haven't seen anything of it, but that's ideally what you'd see, because if you have, especially with the comic, you know, we show action in stills, not action in movement. So even though it is a visual medium, you know, you can't just well, and that's your old school Batman. You can't just hard cut to like someone already finishing the jab. You have to, there has to be fluid movement throughout, and that also happens to happen in the storytelling. It's a metaphor. Whereas in a comic, you're taking stills, even in the dialogue, even in the storyline, everything is a still of what's happening at that moment. And so that's what makes the mediums inherently different. So one-for-one adaptation is going to look really weird because you're just taking a still and stretching it out. You're not actually allowing it to move the way the movie naturally would want to move.
Exactly.
Well, okay. Go ahead, because I kind of want to take it a different direction by what I want to say. So if you have something you want to get out,
let's wrap that thought up. Like, I love Captain America throughout the years, but watching him in action, especially in the last two, was such a joy, because it was like I was watching something I'd never seen before, and yet was as familiar as the back of my hand.
Yeah,
it was beautiful.
You know, I felt the same way about the Lord of the Rings movies. There are so many moments that they weren't straight from the book, but it was like all these characters that have been up here, and the movie was done so well. And of course, it's got its moments where I don't like it, but 95% of the movie, that's why I've watched those movies 24 times, and enjoy them so much, because that seeing it come to life, it's a great feeling. So, see, you had something to say, Haley. If you want to chime in too, feel free. I know you're quiet.
Well, no, what I have noticed lately, considering now that we're into the digital age of comics and things, when you read comic books now, they go panel for panel. But what I was noticing, I've been reading the Zdarsky Daredevil, and I've been reading it on my phone, and I stopped doing the panel to panel thing. But I noticed that they're starting to do it to where they're making a comic book like a movie. For instance, there's this one scene where the guy's talking on the phone, and it's about 4 panels, and then he reacts, trying to space that out. But to me, it's like you kind of lose the art form of the comic book when you try to mold it to the movie form.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, have y'all noticed that? Have you in recent comics? They seem to they're not storyboarding it per se, but they're trying to give it the same beats, and it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't work for comics because comics is its own medium.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I could see maybe like a phone conversation being extended that long is if each line is in some way a gut punch to the character. But so each one deserves their own moment. But if it's, every time I've seen a phone conversation or a moment of like split dialogue isn't just strictly 2 people on panel doing like verbal judo. It's always just been like 1 panel, 3 bubbles, and then cut away elsewhere. Yeah.
Phone voice line going.
Yeah.
Well, and with this, you could have had, for instance, it was a phone reaction. So he talks in one panel, and then his facial expression in the second panel, you could, and I think it was actually, I said 4, but it might have actually been 5 panels because it seemed like it was a long time because at least two of them were silent.
It's a full page of one.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, 3 panels I get, he says hello, what seems to be the problem, quiet, and then his reaction in that last panel. But you can still do it in 2 panels and have that same feel to it.
Yeah.
But to me, it just had that, it's pacing like a movie or like a TV show, and I think that's really taken away from the art form. While the story's great, I do like Zdarsky's Daredevil. I do.
Yeah.
But it's
yeah.
I just noticed that.
I mean,
about too much realism in comics, because just like the spandex of these heroes going over into a movie does not work. In comics, that is a strong point. You have to, I think when you get too much realism, it's kind of the same thing on that side. It just doesn't translate well to me. I think comics are more expressive when they're exaggerated, because that's a lot of times what we're trying to do as pencilers is trying to exaggerate to show movement because we're working with still images. These poses don't work in real life. If you see somebody walking around like they do in comics, it just doesn't work. And so there's
someone's flying because they have a weird crook in their leg.
Exactly. Yeah. Or
hovering.
I mean, if people walk around like this all the time, it's kind of, you look ridiculous. Is there something wrong with that dude's back? Is there something wrong with him? Or, but in comics, you have to make those kind of exaggerations. And, when people try to go a little bit too realistic with comics, now I enjoy the Ultimates. I enjoy, realistic comics when they can pull it off. But sometimes they just, you got to really be, you got to really strike that balance to be able to pull that off.
Well, that's the golden rule of writing, which you get pounded into every day with BFA, is everything serves a plot, the character, or the exposition. And not like exposition dump, but like, it serves to set up something the reader did not know beforehand. And when you can break the rules of writing if it does one of those 3 things traditionally, but if you don't, you end up getting this sort of weird, dry, elongated moments that feels like dead air. Which if you're doing something that's very realistic, if you're doing like literary fiction, that's kind of just par for the course. But comics, you can do literary, but you typically don't see it, especially if it's not branded as literary. So for something that is supers, if you do get realism, like you do something like the Ultimates, or you do a one-off focused on the character, like Wolverine or whatever, if they break the moments, if it's done well, like Ben Percy's current Wolverine, it's to serve forwarding the plot or to serve the character. So even when it breaks it when you get some weird beats in the pacing, or you get something else done a little off, or dialogue doesn't quite jive. You still end up developing one of those three elements, and you can't forgive it because you're like, oh, the story's still happening in a way I expect it to. It's just this one thing feels a little weird.
I always find it funny when people say stuff about the anatomies of characters and stuff in comics, about people really don't look like that. Of course they don't. And they don't fly either. And they don't, do all these super crazy things that people do in comics. But on the page, that stuff works. Now, in a movie, it might not.
Yeah.
So, it's people aren't supposed to look that way in real life.
Well,
that's why I love the Ant-Man movies, because it was very comic booky. Because when they were gonna make Ant-Man in a movie, I'm like,
why
Ant-Man? Yeah. But I love the first one, especially that the scene in the briefcase. It's a little bit of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but it was comic booky, and they just jumped in with both feet and made it a comic book movie, and it was fun. So
I think Guardians helped with that.
Yeah.
Tone a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, when they decided to do Guardians, that was such a weird moment, because I mean, if you're doing an adaptation, always look for things you don't think should work. Because Guardians at the time was like going on D-list property for Marvel, but people who read it were like, "Oh no, this makes so much sense." But when they
it might make more coming up. So
yeah, but when they actually went through and did that, they were able to take what was a property that like no one had done and reinvent it in a way that ended up actually like saving the title in their lineup, which is insane. But it's those moments where if you look for something that doesn't work in its own medium, maybe try reinventing it for another medium, and then take the lessons you learned and pull it back, reinventing it for its parent medium.
Yes. So we should have the Stiltman as a cooking show.
Yes. Yeah.
That might. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think
guys, I
Batman
gotta
Begins
go.
did that to us. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I gotta go. It's late. I gotta get up early. But
all right,
Brent, thank you very much. As always, your wisdom and insight. Have a great evening.
All right, you guys too. I'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
See ya.
Yeah, I should peace out too.
Hey, what? You're not allowed. You are not allowed to leave. Is there a Silverline title that you think would make a good movie?
Your word quota yet?
Now I don't know after the whole discussion of just because it's a good comic, but yeah, I definitely agree with the movie should be different from not just panel for panel, because then it's why have both if they're the same,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, why watch the movie? I've seen there's some web comics where fans will do a voice acted version of it, and that's never really interested me, because I'm kind of I would just rather read it the way it was intended, because it's not it's animated or a movie. It's literally the panels, but people reading it. And I guess it's cool to have the characters to have voices and they add music and stuff, but for me I'm kind of oh, it's cool, but it's too similar to the original, and I'd rather just read the way the artist originally intended it without any added stuff. But yeah, but for the question for what Silverline title would be good, I don't think I've actually read any of Divinity yet, but definitely the concept, it sounds like it would make it would be exciting on screen. It would be a good movie. And
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when we're thinking are you guys thinking more live action? Because I know for me, I love animation and cartoony stuff, and my own drawing style is more cartoony. So if one of my own creations, my Heroic Shenanigans comic, I wouldn't want to see it live action. I'd want it to be animated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Actually, I thought about that, and not to talk about my own title so much, but my daughter mentioned it about it would be a cool cartoon. It would be cool animated, and that gives you what's the line? You've got an unlimited special effects budget with animation. So I think it would be a neat, especially with the art style that I got with this issue, and translating that to maybe even almost an anime style of the characters being a little stylized. I don't know. But I don't know. It'd be an interesting way to portray it in a motion picture. But yes, I agree. Divinity having read both of them, Divinity would be a great story, especially a longer series too, where you can get the characters fleshed out and maybe even get some more backstory. What you can go, Haley. I'm I'm not going to keep you here, but do you have another story that you wish could be made into a movie? It doesn't have to be a comic book.
Can't think of anything off the top of my head.
That's okay. It's okay. No worries. No worries. Okay. Well, hey, if you got to bounce, remind everybody where they can find your comic book and find you.
Okay. Yeah. So my comic is called Heroic Shenanigans. It's at heroicshenanigans.com. If you Google it, you'll probably find it, even if you spell it wrong. 'Cause it's kind of a long, unique title. It is also on Webtoons, and then I'm also on Instagram as Haley Martin Art.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Hey, have a good night.
Yeah, you too. See you guys later.
Good night, Haley.
See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.
So, folks out there, we have passed the halfway point, and I do like to remind people that we are brought to you by Daytona Beach Comic Book Convention. It's happening September 18th and 19th, and historycamp.org, that they have a virtual history conference happening July 11th. You can go sign up on either website. I know the Daytona Beach keeps posting every so often with updates about the event and who's going to be there, and there will be a great Silverline lineup. And if you grabbed one of our signature books or autograph books, right? Bring that, and then you can get some of those autographs from Silverliners. I don't know everybody that's going to be there, but they've been posting who will be at Daytona Beach, and then we've got a great lineup too of other shows that have been supporting our creatives. In most cases, me or Barb Kaleberg and my co-creator Rory, we've been on quite a few shows promoting our Kickstarter, which ends this Sunday. We're 3 days away from 4 and change, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because today's almost over. Founder of the Day on Instagram and YouTube did a great interview with us with the history focus, and Sci-Fi Diner podcast as well. They have a great audio podcast, and they talk science fiction, and they interviewed us about Steam Patriots. And then Barb was on about 2 weeks ago on Geek Speak, and I was interviewed Monday by C. Michael here on Geek Speak, and he says they've got some changes in store for that, but you can still find
shut it
those.
down. You just shut it
But
down.
and I topped it. I was it. Doesn't get better than me.
The campfire chat.
It's like the final guest of the Johnny Carson show.
Right, everyone's gonna remember the final guest of Geek Speak. And thank you also. Drinking with OCD and Critical Blast and Sunday Funnies have all taken the time to interview us and promote the 2 titles we have right now on Kickstarter, and we are very close. I'm going to reiterate that if we get somebody to pledge and get drawn in, that is an add-on. You're not going to see it as a pledge. You're going to add it on as part of your pledge. You can manage your pledge and add it if you want right now. But if you do that tonight and you've got about 45 minutes, I will guarantee we've got 5 people. The first person to do that, I will give you dialogue in Steam Patriots, and we can talk or Zoom and talk about how you want your character to be portrayed. So we're really pulling on all the stops to draw you into Steam Patriots. We are $53 away from our 3rd stretch goal, and that is we're going to give everybody a patch for the fictional 1st Continental Boiler Battalion that will be making an appearance sooner or later in Steam Patriots, and our hero Felix Ward will be involved with that coming up. It's not in the first one, but it's kind of a little Easter egg that you're going to get to see something that's coming up in the story, and that's modeled. The patch is modeled after the flag that Dan Hosick designed for us, and everybody that has backed, not the digital backers, but everybody that's getting something physical will be getting a bookmark, a 2-sided bookmark, and a trading card. Trading cards for each. So the bookmark has Divinity art on one side and a Steam Patriots advertisement on the other, an 18th century style advertisement, and then the trading cards have Divinity art and little description on the other side. Same with the Steam Patriots art on one side, and then a cool write up on the other. So thank you everybody that has supported those projects so far. And tell your friends that we're so close to getting to the $6,000 mark. We're talking about movie adaptations of comic books, and of course, we can talk about anything else that we want to talk about. So, if you've got comments or questions, toss them up there, and we can talk about your favorite movies, that good, bad, movies that are books or comic books that you want to see made into movies. And then we'd love to talk about Silverline titles and their potential to be made into a motion picture. We've talked about Kalis and Divinity specifically, and they both have a military aspect. They both have an action aspect, which makes for great storytelling and fits nicely into a movie format. We've got quite a few other titles. I thought about Twilight Grim. I think that could be even done a little grittier, a little darker in a movie format. Bump that up to a little PG-13 plus, and I think it'd be
Sam Raimi take care of it.
Yeah,
That'd be kind of interesting.
I think it's a neat story concept, and it is the comic book is a little gruesome and gory. It's nothing over the top, but I think in the movie format, it could be a kind of a cool thriller, dark world, because you've got crime. You have two sides of this city where pretty much one side is a free for all, and because the vampires are allowed to do as they please on one side, and really nobody's safe. And then the other side, they're not allowed over there. But there's a guy, Twilight Grim, that is trying to keep some.
Nope, not going to happen. Not in my place.
Not on my watch. Yeah.
I don't.
So I think it'd be a good story.
I've been on a weird vampire kick, but Twilight Grim almost reminds me of like the end game of Vampire the Masquerade. Like if anyone's ever been familiar with that setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like it's an RPG like D&D, but vampires in modern day setting.
You said end game?
It'd be like the end game of Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah. Like basically the bot have come out and pretty much taken over section of the city.
It's kind of like, all right, we got enough power. Not the Shadow game. You're just ours now.
The Black Hand now owns the whole city.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's going to be an interesting adaptation in itself when they come out, because they're about to hit the World of Darkness pretty hard, from what I understand. So
yeah.
They have a video game as well, too.
Yeah.
The Vampire Masquerade.
It's like pretty
It's
good.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're just turning Scott into vampires. Yeah. But
discussion took a different turn now.
Yes.
Scott.
Just thinking.
Silverline After Hours.
Yes.
I would imagine Twilight Grim would turn out a little something like Underworld or great movies, especially the first one. But the other ones I liked. But yeah, that's how I would imagine it coming out.
I'm thinking like what was it, Daybreak?
Ooh,
Sam
yeah.
Neill and was it Josh Hartnett?
Mm-hmm.
or the other guy that reminds me of Josh Hartnett?
Josh,
Ethan Hawke.
actually, might be Ethan Hawke. I mean, have a Google.
What
I
happened
can't
to
remember.
Josh
It might
Hartnett?
be Ethan Hawke. They
Uh,
both
Josh
remind me of
Hartnett
each
was a
other.
kid.
Josh Hartnett and Ethan Hawke. No.
I can't take it. No, that's too much.
This is the new one. What? Get out of here.
Yeah, I think the vampire one was called Daybreak. They had the Netflix series Daybreakers,
Yeah.
which
Actually had the Daybreak movie on my watch list, but I have never watched it. But it looks so interesting. I just never got around to it. I really want to
it's,
see it too. Is it any good?
what I can remember, it's all right. There's one scene in it that's just bad, eh? I don't want to tell you anything about it. Yeah, when you get a chance, watch it. Watch it. Sam Neill always gives a great performance, no matter what he does. Honestly, whether he's Damien or he's Dr. Grant, he just brings it. So, but
Ethan Hawke.
comic-
It is,
yes.
it is Ethan Hawke. Yeah.
It's the good Josh Hartnett or Hartnett.
Yeah.
So now I need to look him up because I like where did he go? Where did Josh Hartnett go to?
I think he just
I
came
won't
out
look him
with
up
something
now.
recently, actually.
Really? Probably one of those guys that's still acting and he's in tons of stuff and I just didn't realize it. So what elements of a comic book or a story make for a good movie? It's not always action. We've talked about action it's kind of an easy one. It's not a bad thing, but action is interesting. Drama can be difficult, can be slow. Meaning like talking and internal anguish and characters in the soap opera style.
That's why I'm so interested in the Morbius movie that's coming out.
Oh,
yeah.
That's gonna be, speaking of vampires, that's gonna be it's Jared Leto, man. I have no idea what's gonna happen to that. I feel like it's gonna turn.
And then with Blade coming up,
Yeah.
who knows? We might see a team
Exactly.
up. Who knows?
Blade I'm more excited for because I've seen more traditional, but Morbius I'm afraid he's gonna turn into like Vampire Old Man in the Sea. I don't know.
Yeah, so we have been talking about action stories a lot because it's easier. So, but what other elements do we need in a? I don't know. That might be too broad of a question because
yeah, it's hard to say. The one thing I would say, and this is subjective, but as long as the adaptation kind of keeps the spirit of what it is it's adapting and doesn't get lost in this, oh, we got to make this for a new audience. You know,
Yeah.
I think as long as they do plenty of fan service, you know, and tell a complete story, other people that are not aware of it, that aren't into comics, that don't even know how to read comics, you know, they'll be turned on by the story. Just, you know, just if you tell the story in a movie form, because they watch movies, they don't, you know, read comics. But I think a movie that really did that well, did a lot of fan service, and I don't think it could have been made any earlier than what it was the Iron Man series. I think they did a great job of capturing the spirit. I think they picked a good actor to do it, one who kind of resonated with Tony Stark, you know, because of his own personal background. You know, and I just think everything just fired on all cylinders, and they just really got that balance, and they captured the spirit of Iron Man, and also in Captain America, same thing. You know, they got the spirit of it, and in the movie, and you know, so many times they try to adapt stuff and they try to just change a little too much as far as the key ingredients. And that'll ruin it. You know, that always ruins it. Another thing that kind of gets to me with adaptions is you know, when they try to do the same thing over and over, say for instance, all the Batman reboots, you know, they always have to have a Joker in there. You know, when they did it with Star Trek, they had to have the second movie being Khan.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, let's move on to let's see somebody else. Let's
Yeah.
you know, let's explore some different characters because you know, with a lot of these titles, you probably got a movie or two. You know,
Yep.
so try to get somebody different that hasn't been done. Let's not reinvent the same characters over and over.
That's
You
why.
know,
That's why I liked the first Nolan Batman more than others. Like, yes, it had Ra's al Ghul, but for the most part, it was Scarecrow who, you know, had his place, but he wasn't. You know, he didn't have people walking around wearing Scarecrow T-shirts.
Well, and I think, in all honesty, and I love Batman. I love the Nolan series, with the exception of the last one. But the thing is then people started using it, especially DC, as a precedent for making comic book movies.
Yeah.
Let's make it more realistic. Let's make it grounded. But that he was doing an experiment with Batman. It wasn't like he was trying to be,
Yeah, and like
revolutionize comics.
yeah, and it's also like the whole thing where like how also Roland and Twitch chat gave us a good point to get to after this, but like what Quentin said, you know, it's keeping the spirit there. You know, we have Iron Man. It's sassy, quirky action, but with essentially if you had a Playboy millionaire who was the worst Playboy millionaire. But when you had Nolan doing Dark Knight, it was, you know, it was brooding. It was kind of more on the drama side, where it had moments of action, but it was more Batman trying to internalize the trauma he just encountered, as well as figure out, you know, why his city is falling apart. So there's a lot more of an intellectual take on it, rather than just Batman punched through a wall, which was why Ben Affleck, I feel like, kind of fell apart. As just, Batman decides one day to kill God. That was Batman versus Superman. In the Twitch chat, Roland says, Highlander reboot. And Dean Zachary and I actually had an extended Facebook thread talking about this.
love Highlander.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite. I mean, of course, all of the mistakes they made with it, but I mean, I really love the whole concept, everything about it. Highlander.
The series, the series I think cemented it is. I liked it. That's how I was introduced to Highlander. It was long before I even saw the Chris Lambert Highlander. So, you know, Duncan MacLeod is my MacLeod versus Connor MacLeod. don't say it too loud, but and so it kind of helps cement that mythos. In that world.
I mean, that's the thing. Like we're saying, you can forgive things if they serve one of the three things: the character, the plot, or the exposition. The series was one long exposition. It solidified the mythos, and so because of that, people were like, "Yeah, I'm okay with us having 2 seasons, sure."
I really, really liked the first one.
Yeah, the first one was great.
It was done in such a way though that it was just a one-off, and you know when they did 2 and subsequent others.
Number 3, The Quickening. Oh my god. But I will say there is speaking of adaptation, they did adapt it into a anime movie. I forgot what studio did it. But there is there's an anime Highlander movie which is actually super dope.
I have not seen that
because
I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah,
they tried to cross. Then they ended up crossing over the. Well, there was a series, wasn't there?
I can't remember if they did turn into a series. I just remember the movie because I was on Toonami back when that was a thing.
Yeah. I might be mistaken about it because I never saw it.
Yeah.
But then they tried to cross the series and the movies together with what was it? Was it called Endgame? Is that?
Oh no! Yeah, they had they had a movie called The Quickening where they pulled in a bunch of people from the series to be like, they're going to the source to figure out what makes the immortals, and they fight a shirtless old man in a giant CGI tube.
It was, the whole Planet Zed thing too. Oh, I just, I really hated it. But that franchise was so good because it was so different than anything else. And a lot of at the time, I don't know how well y'all's memories are, but at the time they were doing a lot of vampire stuff and a lot of just I myself, which from our earlier conversation you wouldn't know it, but at the time I was getting a lot of vampire fatigue. But I mean, zombies wasn't a thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
But this was something that was awesome and new that I hadn't seen before, and it was really cool, really cool. And now and what has been the thing since 2000, I guess, has been the zombies. Oh my goodness, so much zombie fatigue. Um,
Dana
mean-
Kirkman.
What Highlander? There was a Highlander Endgame. That's the one where they ended up pulling Connor and Duncan in the same movie.
Yeah.
Then they had Adrian. What is Adrian Paul? I think.
Adrian Paul is that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they had the Source. I've never saw the Source.
It's so.
I never will now.
No, what you do is you. Depending on what your vices are, you partake in those and then you watch it.
Punishment. I'm not into torture. I'm not. I'm not a masochist, so.
It's one of those things where you do it in one of those things where you get a bunch of friends together, you get like your bad movie bingo board put out or your shot game put out. It's like when you watch The Room, you have to do the Room shot game, otherwise it doesn't work.
I can't wait till they remake.
I don't know if I know that one.
Oh god.
Wait, you don't know The Room?
Maybe.
Oh my
Bobby
god.
Wasu.
There's a movie with James Franco about the making of The Room. I'd say start
watch
there.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you like terrible movies, check it out. But
Oh yes, yeah. Who doesn't love terrible movies? So then what? Okay, is it easier to say what doesn't make for a good movie adaptation? I think one of the easiest answers is special effects.
Mm-hmm.
We had until recently, you couldn't make a good superhero movie because they were just cheesy. You did not have the special effects. If you look at the old,
Yeah.
I mean, look at the old
Steel
Hulk or
featuring
Spider-Man.
Shaq.
Yeah.
I always go
They
back to that
were-
movie.
They were super cheesy, and so even science fiction, it's a little, that we were limited by special effects. So that's one of the easiest limitations. You can't just do the direct. It doesn't work. You can't take these elements, these visual elements that you can draw or write about,
Yeah.
Colors
and put them on a screen.
spandex.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. I think it took them a little time to figure that out. That it took a few fails before they figured out that, bright colors works in a comic book because everything
Right.
has to be
Yeah.
flashy.
Yeah. That's honestly
On screen that doesn't translate.
That's actually what I really like what they did for Captain Marvel's MCU outfit, where it's a flight suit. It's a modified flight suit. It just makes sense for the character.
Mhm.
But and then you can go too far and really commit to the joke, and that's how you get John Cena as Peacemaker, where it's nothing but spandex and a giant dorky helmet.
Yeah.
But very clear, like, this is a joke. This is intentionally designed to be weird.
Right.
But
I mean, it all depends. Like, take for instance the Falcon, Captain America costume is almost spot on to what it is in the series. I wish he could move his neck, but I mean, you gotta take
he's doing the Mandalorian thing. Just got a full body
I would
turn.
say there's exceptions,
Yeah.
to some designs, but I think like for instance, Superman, it worked. I think that the Superman costume somehow it works. Captain America, when I watched that first Captain America years ago, like back, I guess it was in the 80s, that didn't work.
Oh, that
It just didn't work.
the helmet one.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Yeah.
was. I don't know what the difference is
Yeah.
between the Superman costume and the Captain America costume, but the Captain America costume just looked cheesy.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, out of the gate.
Well, they did something kind of weird too. The Superman armor, they almost made it look like scalloped armor, where it's actually just a bunch of rings layered over each other. Where it almost looked like he was just wearing full body mail.
I think he's talking about.
I was talking about the Christopher Reeve.
Oh, the old, yeah.
The way back.
Yeah.
Getting the way back machine, go way back.
He's not from our planet. So it's a little more acceptable to say, okay, this this guy's even weirder, so
Yeah.
he can look weird and wear a weird outfit.
But
so I think that
The
might be
super
why it worked.
intelligent, super powerful race,
Yeah.
it's okay for them to wear pajamas
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
I think even if, the way it is though, it is bright and flashy, but it's a simplified form of that. Is at the time you have Captain America, you have to deal with like the flag on it and the shield and the wings on the helmet. Everything. Superman, you give him a blue unitard and a big S on it, and you're done.
I liked how they did it for the new Captain America movie. I mean, it was obviously for the show, and then
It
he
looked a little
kind of
more
modified.
functional.
Yeah.
That is weird because the world in the movie has to accept these people wearing these odd outfits
And having
in the
code
MCU,
names.
yeah. Well,
Black
like
Rose and- yeah.
when Spider-Man, when they're he's introduces himself as Doctor Strange introduces himself. Oh, we're using our superhero names.
Yeah.
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 And is that Endgame or I think it's
No,
Endgame.
it's, yeah, Infinity War.
Infinity War. Yep.
Yeah.
So Iron Man, they play it off by him picking the colors of his car. Right. He looks over his hot rod and tells Jarvis to paint it red and yellow.
I wouldn't remember
so
that.
yeah.
It just shows
What's
how
that?
big of an Iron Man fan you are. I didn't remember that. What about that scene?
I've watched that
in the
one a few
instance
times.
of Spider-Man, and it may go for Superman too. You know, their abilities are so far and above outlandish that I think you kind of buy the suit. Maybe
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is. Whereas with like Captain America and some others, they're just like not that crazy of abilities. It
made sense for Captain America to be wearing like a flak jacket and like
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think
Maybe that's what it is.
I'm going to go back just because it's such a funny choice. But I mean, for the upcoming Suicide Squad, you have Man Shark, all these other dudes with like actual abilities, wearing what looks to be like very normal tactical gear, and then John Cena, Peacemaker, his ability is that he can shoot people, and he's wearing the most outlandish uniform.
Why does he get that out? Yeah. But in the Marvel movies, they do though. They create the world where the public has accepted these characters as well, so they're not weird. Everybody understands the purpose. So like I like again the Spider-Man. Is it? I think it is the first Spider-Man movie. The MCU Spider-Man where the guy yells up, "Hey Spider-Man, do a backflip," or what?
Yeah.
So like. Because Spider-Man's there in New York City, and it's acceptable.
Yeah.
So that allows the story world to mesh together with the people running around in costumes.
Yeah.
A little better. Tim, what about Wolf Hunter? Do you think that would, from what I've heard of it, sounds like it'd make it be an awesome espionage action World War II movie. With all the vintage cool.
It definitely have to be like it's almost like a tech piece. It have to be kind of slower at moments.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly has like its moments of chasings, but I definitely tried to write it from an approach of a slow burn. I mean, it's a guy stuck on a 3-hour train ride, and he knows the spy he's looking for is on it. So you have to find a way to fill 3 issues in that. But it would be kind of cool to do it almost rotoscoped, like where you record the movie and then you animate over it. Because there are moments where it flashes back or it cuts to him thinking about something, and there's a moment where he's trying to figure out, how does he, because it's his first operation as a part of the Office of Gentlemanly Warfare before you even know he's being recruited. So, which is also the best name for a secret service.
Yeah.
So he's trying to think about, he's like, all right, so if this is like going into a dogfight, you already know the mechanics at play. They're running Junkers and you're running Hurricanes. So it cuts to a blueprint of like the layouts as he explains his thought process there. there's a moment where he looks through a window and flashes back to whatever. But a rotoscoping, you'd have that almost be kind of seamless, where that's the same level of detail between the live action and the hallucination or his thought process. So when you're kind of doing more of a slow burn, I feel like it kind of add a level of weird to it that make it kind of cool having not quite like a fractured sense of reality, but having a character who's operates on more of a thinking level where his reality exists is more than just what's in front of him.
Yeah, your slow burn comment, I think would be reminiscent more of some of the older spy movies. I think I mentioned it before. The Man Who Never Was is a 50s World War II 50s movie about World War II. I like The Great Escape, where they've got people forging things, and I don't know your story well enough, but where it's slow, but it's neat, and that's a dumb word.
Yeah,
neat. But they create fake documents in there. They've got a guy watching for the guard over here, and a guy doing this over here.
That'd
be
I came with the idea of reading like a couple John le Carre novels. It's the same idea where like it's this technology, person thinking, blah blah blah, gunshots back to.
Yeah. I watched a lot of those older movies where they're not just all action.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be, again, without reading your story, that's kind of the feel I get of it. I could be way off.
When you look at The Great Escape, though, and you say it's slow, and it was, but their personalities and their dialogue and everything, really contributed to the story. See, everything. Action doesn't necessarily make a fast movie. In fact, I've watched action movies where I'm bored halfway through it because all it is action.
Yeah. I think what I was thinking when it comes to what makes for a good adaptation is as long as it has a fully developed triangle of weird to the point where you're fully it's fully memorable, like where it hits all the baselines for world building, and it has the element that's so unique and out there that you can translate it into any medium and tweak the story however you need it. But as long as that element is still there, it's still going to carry through.
You said rotoscope and hallucinations, and I'll be honest with you, what came to mind was Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Yeah.
And I know it's not rotoscope per se, but that kind of when it fades into an illusion or whatever the case is, it's very seamless.
Yeah.
But
one of my favorite movies is A Scanner Darkly. Just one where So that's the same thing.
With Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And
Whenever rotoscope, I always think of the Bakshi Lord of the Rings. And if you want if you want to talk hallucinating and hip and trippy, where Frodo and the Dark Riders are there, and he's saying, "Go back by the Shire," and that scene is like 19 minutes long. Yeah. I do subject my children to that movie about not quite once a year, but we all sit down and we watch that great movie. Dean Zachary loves that movie. It's got its moments. But it's funny though to.
Did you check out the Nostalgia Critic about that movie?
Oh yeah. That's spot on. I love it. And apparently, and I haven't watched it yet. There's a recent, I don't know how recently, but there's a Russian version from like the 80s or 90s that I think has Tom Bombadil in it. I think, but I need to watch that. And it's like super low budget, like no budget. Tim, back to your World War II and slow. Anyone seen Papillon with Dustin Hoffman and I think Steve McQueen?
Sounds familiar.
Papillon. It's talk about a slow.
I know I've seen it.
It's slow, and I may need to rewatch it because I think I watched it when I was a teenager, and so I didn't appreciate it. But I just remember it being slow. That and Bridge on the River Kwai. That's a great movie, but Sir Alec Guinness, and I think there's other names in that one, but that's a slow movie. It's a good one. It's a good one, but could use something else. I don't know. Maybe pick up the pace just a hair. But yeah, I guess that is kind of the nature of a lot of old movies, right? I just
Yeah, if you watch, if you go back and watch a lot of your old favorites, you'll realize just how much dead space is in a lot of them, especially 007 movies. I didn't realize just how much dead space was in those movies. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I love James Bond movies, but you're right. I watched Doctor No. They were on Amazon for a while, and I was watching them because you could put the you could do that. What do they call it? Their X-ray.
Oh yeah.
And so on your computer, you can put your mouse up to the top left or whatever, and it keeps the X-ray, all the tidbits going along the side, and that was interesting. But because I hadn't watched Doctor No or You Only Live Twice or Diamonds Are Forever in a long time.
Goldfinger.
Actually, Goldfinger. I think Goldfinger is my favorite Connery. Probably because that's the first one I ever owned, and so I watched it a lot. And it's got the Aston Martin in it.
I expect you to die.
Yeah, expect me to talk Goldfinger. So it's slow. They're all so slow, and like the fight scenes too. They're just like muscling each other around for 10 minutes. And
yeah, but
punching and
I was talking with one of my fighting friends, boxing, and he's talking about like for a lot of fighters now you can use it up as choreography in fights, but back in the day like fight choreography was not really a thing. You just had a director like, you guys throw him over here. So you always had the scene where they grab each other by the collar and start shaking each other, and that's a fight.
Always seemed like somebody would fall back onto a chair or a bed, and they'd do the foot thing, and they'd kick them away.
Yeah.
I forget which James Bond movie it was, but when he ejects the guy out of the car, it is
Goldfinger.
Clearly a dummy, and it's so hilarious.
Yeah, because he goes,
yeah, do the Wilhelm scream.
That scene, he's driving the Aston Martin, being chased, and the bad guys in the passenger seat with a gun on him, and Sean Connery flips the stick shift button, the buttons there on the stick shift, flips it open. The guy looks at the button, looks at him, looks at the button. And James Bond presses. It's like he gives him like 10 seconds to consider. I'm gonna press this button. Something's gonna happen. It's so corny, and that whole chase scene too, because then he drives off and they're following him around, and really nothing happens with that chase scene. But I love Goldfinger. I think Moonraker and Die Another Day are two that I just can't. They're so.
I have to say one more thing about Goldfinger. Whenever he is in there with all of his bad guys, Goldfinger, and he starts pressing these buttons, and all these things come down and come up, and I'm like, man, all this for a presentation, wow. All these gadgets and buttons for a PowerPoint.
That's where John Medic got it from. His love of PowerPoint.
When I was a kid, though, I was like, wow, look at this guy. He's got all these futuristic gadgets and everything. Yeah. And then you look at it, it's like, just a PowerPoint presentation with a model table. And oh, my goodness, it was hilarious.
I always like to think about, and I know it's a parody thing people do, but you think about the supervillain, he's got to hire somebody to do that, to build these things. And he's got to stand there and, show him the diagram. You're like, no, I want the panel. No, it's got to be 2 feet to the left. I'd like it in a mauve, please.
Yeah. and what's even more about this? He puts all this money into this presentation, and spoiler alert, he's gonna kill all the people who watch the presentation.
Yes. That's
with poison gas. It's like, come on, all this money that you just put into this thing, and you're just gonna kill everybody that watches it. So hilarious.
I like also that they went the time to explain that there is an organization which oversees most of these villains called Spectre, which we really get nothing of. But I like to think that they're super villain OSHA. Where it's like no, you can't have the nuke this close to this chamber, otherwise you could set it off before you can.
Oh, that'd be an awesome comic. Oh, write it, Tim. Write it.
I have a pitch out there called Excellion, which is about the accounting department for like Spectre type groups. If anyone wants to draw it, it's out there. I want an artist.
Somebody has to. You're right, because they can't just be all willy nilly and evil. They burn through their budget. I want all the chairs to fall into a pit of lava. Well, how are you going to get the lava?
Yeah.
There?
But it's the comic, the pitch I have out for Excellion. It's it's a company called Excellion, and they do all the accounting for third world dictators, evil agencies, supervillains. So,
Hey, see, you want to spend that much to build a missile, but you're only asking for half of what you need to build it.
Exactly. So, so they were like running that. They're like, okay, we gotta like run your taxes through summer, so we have this weird dictator that gives us we can do this weird thing.
So
just
to keeping with our theme, adapting a story into a visual art here. Yeah, we're really keeping with it.
Yeah.
Adapting so you can adapt just about anything, because they'll take these absurd stories and turn them into James Bond movies or Fast and the Furious or any crazy story that makes sometimes absolutely zero sense, but we gobble it up, right? We love it.
Yeah.
So there's very little that doesn't translate into the motion picture world, but in the comic book world, I love the freedom we have to do even more than I think than movies. We can do any thing we want. And we don't get to get characters that look like who we looking at here is getting drawn.
Well, I think too, the good thing about comics is, you get to see, you get to see something in its raw form, like, well, I say in its raw form, but, it hasn't been raked over by a bunch of different groups and people, and then distilled down into
It's
something that makes everybody happy.
It's not really like by committee, unless it might be the big two if it's one of their main projects they haven't given off to a group to a single person to control over. But I mean, it's collaboration, but not to the point of we have to. It's.
I mean, like Steam Patriots. I mean, it's going to be Rory and Scott's story. And whatever they've done with it, plus whatever editing went into it, and that's it. It's it's going to be fresh, from them.
It's
the plan, unless the millions of dollars start rolling in, and then things. I don't know.
Yep. Like I always say about rolling, when you start making your cameos in the films and all that kind of stuff,
We'll see. Hey guys, we're getting towards the end here. Folks out there, you got like 6 minutes to get my challenge, get drawn into Steam Patriots, and I'll give you some lines, and we can Zoom call and talk about how you want your character to be portrayed. We have been talking about movie adaptations of comic books and other written forms. We talked also at the beginning of this show, if you missed it, military in storylines in movies and in comic books, and how it's tough. It's tough to get it right, because you want to do the justice and do your due diligence of showing representing a military character in your story well, and you never want to be you don't want to get it wrong. And Brent mentioned that his depiction of people in the Marine Corps was especially difficult, because Marines won't let it slip by if you goof up. Barb Berg has a Marine in her story as well, and he is an older brother to the hero of the story, the main character. And Barb did a great job of showing what it's like to have to leave the military life, and how the military prepared this character for the troubles that are going to be happening in this story. I have read Divinity #2, which is the one of the titles on Kickstarter right now, and it's a fantastic continuation from #1. It picks up, and they've done a great job. And I say they, Barb and R.A. Jones and their team for Divinity. And Steam Patriots #1 is the other title on Kickstarter, and we have about 3 days left. They are funded, and so we're going for the extras. We're $53 away from unlocking our third stretch goal. So if you want to be that person, we'd be super happy. Push us over the edge, that $53, and we'll be on toward our fourth goal. And I think, I'm sorry, it's not in front of me. So that'd be 6,500. I think that's the rough draft. Roland has been calling it a novel, and I appreciate it, Roland. It is my novel, but it is in a very raw form. So if we push to $6,500, you're going to get my rough draft, which is very different than the final product of Steam Patriots.
That's what I want to see.
Well, I've been going through it. I'm not changing it. I'm just seeing how embarrassing it is. I wrote it in 2012 as a national novel writing challenge, a NaNoWriMo challenge. I didn't quite hit the 50,000 word mark, but I think it comes in a little over 100 pages. So you're gonna get the brain of Scott Wakefield as I hashed out Steam Patriots. So if we got to 6,500 and then 7,000, you get another novel. And that's an R.A. Jones novel. I don't have them in front of me, so I apologize. But let's keep going. Let's make this an awesome campaign. And you support these two titles, but that's showing your support for Silverline and for indie comics, and that allows Silverline to keep creating these great titles. And we've got so many stories waiting to happen, waiting to come out and be in your hands. And one of them, Wolf Hunter, and we've got Trumps being penciled and inked. By Quentin. And see, Michael, what are you working on right now? Your rejects, right? Yeah, and that's just a small sample of the titles that we've got ready to go. It's very exciting. So SilverlineComics.com. Don't forget to go over there, check out all of our other titles that you can grab. Those come from Indie Planet. And we have a podcast. Any streaming service carries it, as far as I know. If you just search Silverline Comics Podcast, you'll get lots of results. Those are distilled versions of these live streams in the audio form, so you can listen to them while you drive or clean the house or something like that. And Silver Sunday is 9 p.m., 9 to 11 Sunday night. That is another group of fantastic individuals who usually talk the same topic we do, but you've got their perspective on it. And what am I forgetting? Kickstarter ends Sunday night, so share. And thank you to Daytona Beach Comic Book Convention, September 18th and 19th, for your support of our shows, and historylist.org. Go to their websites, sign up, make sure you're getting all their emails and notifications. Thank you to all the shows, Sunday Funnies, Critical Blast, Drinking with OCD, Geek Speak, Sci-Fi Diner Podcast, Founder of the Day, for supporting us and having our creatives on your shows. And all of those are out there, so search for those. That most of them are on Facebook, I believe. You can and watch us there. But you watch me, Barb, Roland, Rory, and see the depths of our minds and our souls that we put into our titles. And I think I'm done talking. My name is Scott Wakefield. I'm going to let the rest of the guys say goodnight as well.
Yep.
I'm Scott at Steam Patriots on Instagram and Facebook, and SteamPatriots.us. If you want to go see all of those things, of course, like, follow, share, subscribe to all of our channels here. So I'm going to go around the horn here and go to Quentin, then Tim, and then C. Go ahead.
Quentin Bedwell working on Trump's book 3. Pete is on 4. You can find me on Facebook as Quentin Bedwell, QJB on DeviantArt, Instagram Quentin Bedwell, Kenobi on Discord, QENOBIE, and I pass.
All right.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. Also, real quick on the chats, Roland says the novel from RA is the Steel Ring, featuring superheroes from the old Centaur run. Tommy on Facebook says he's sorry he couldn't make it. Good to see you all. Good to see you, Tommy.
Missed you, Tommy. Hope you had a good night.
And
happy anniversary.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
Tim TK, associate editor on all the socials at Tim TK Writer. Look out for Wolf Hunter coming to a bookshelf in your bedroom soon. And I will also be on Twitch this weekend at AgriBacon. And that's about what I do.
All right. Thank you, sir. See.
All right, I'm C. Michael Lady. You can check me out at FriendFace, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, Monday nights I'm doing something for Geek Insider. We haven't named it yet, but we're going to see what it comes out to be. Check that out. It's usually 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and we'll see.
And I will vouch for it. He is a fantastic host. He does a good show, so check those out. And Quentin, plug your game once more. Relic Quest, correct?
Relic Quest, yes, it's kind of like on a soft rollout right now. It's open beta to whoever wants to purchase it. And it's
where do they find that?
It's on GameCrafter.com. Relic Quest.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Hey, everybody out there that has supported all of our campaigns, including the current one, thank you. And thank you for joining us for the show. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of you. Go over to Kickstarter.com, search for Steam Patriots, or go to all of our social outlets or our website, and you will find a link to the Kickstarter campaign. We have 3 days left. We have met our goal, so everybody who backs is going to get their reward. As if that was really a question. The stories are done, so the moment this thing ends, and the moment Kickstarter gives Silverline the money, these are going to go to the printer, and you should have them within a very short time. Our fulfillments have been quick turnarounds, and we are, as Roland has been saying, we're 10 for 10. And we, like I said, we couldn't do this without all of you, so we thank you for your support. We'd love if you shared our Kickstarter campaign, please, and tell all your friends, spread the word, tell them whatever they can do to support the 2 titles that are coming out and support Silverline and indie comics. That would make us all very, very happy. So thank you all. It is we've gone a little long here, so we appreciate your time and we appreciate you joining us. Throw your comments in. You can do that even after the show, and we'll get back to you. We love having you join in. So thanks, everybody, and as always, make mine Silverline. Good night, everybody. See ya.